Right now, Americans are staring down a crisis that few people want to acknowledge. It's not a topic dominating the headlines, it's not the loudest issue being debated on cable news, and it's not something most people are even prepared to deal with. Yet it's growing every single day, and it's about to touch nearly every household in the country. This isn't fear-mongering, it's simply looking at the numbers, the corporate announcements, the economic shifts, and the choices that ordinary families are being forced to make. The truth is, the biggest crisis Americans face today isn't some far-off geopolitical event or an abstract debt ceiling fight in Washington. It's what's happening in grocery stores, paychecks, and household budgets. It's the painful combination of stubborn inflation, shrinking purchasing power, and the early signs of deflationary pressure that almost no one is talking about. And that silence is dangerous, because when you don't prepare for what's coming, you get blindsided. Think about where we are right now. Prices are still high. Yes, inflation has slowed from its peak, but the cost of essentials, housing, food, gas, car payments, insurance, has not fallen back to where it was before the pandemic. Families are still paying record-high rent, record grocery bills, and car loans that can swallow a week's paycheck. And here's the kicker. Even when people switch to cheaper alternatives, those so-called budget options aren't really cheap anymore. They've gone up too. That means consumers are making painful choices, skipping fresh produce, delaying car purchases, cutting back on eating out, and buying less brand-name goods. And when consumers stop spending on premium items, big companies feel it. That's where the dominoes start falling. Take Hormel Foods. Just this week, they announced layoffs of 135 workers at a facility in Georgia. Not a small mom-and-pop shop, but a billion-dollar corporation with deep market reach. Then look at Kroger, one of the largest supermarket chains in America, laying off nearly 1,000 corporate staff. Walmart has already made staff cuts too, while citing tariffs and rising costs as a drag on operations. When companies this size begin slashing jobs at the top level, it's not a random blip. It's a signal of structural stress. And here's where it gets even more concerning. Behind the scenes, business leaders and economists are quietly warning that a deflationary phase might be necessary to correct the economy. That means prices will eventually have to come down. But prices don't drop without consequences. Historically, deflation comes hand in hand with layoffs, wage reductions, and benefit cuts. Think back to the pandemic years. The U.S. economy entered a dangerous wage price spiral. Stimulus checks, enhanced unemployment benefits, and PPP loans put cash in people's pockets. Wages were rising in certain sectors, but every time wages went up, prices followed. Rent skyrocketed, utilities spiked, cars jumped in price, food costs doubled in some categories. The average raise of 3 or 4% simply couldn't keep up when housing was climbing by double digits. Families felt like they were treading water, running harder and harder, but never getting ahead. That's where we are again today, except with a twist. Stimulus money is gone, credit card debt has exploded past $1.3 trillion, and household debt overall is above $17 trillion. Consumers are tapped out. They can't keep fueling higher prices with higher spending. Something has to give. And what's giving, slowly but surely, is wages. I spoke with a business owner in California who runs a chain of grocery stores. During the pandemic, he raised wages several times to keep employees afloat and to handle supply chain disruptions. But this year, he made a different move. He cut wages across his company by 4%. His reasoning? If he didn't, prices couldn't come down, and he would lose customers permanently. That 4% cut is larger than the raises he gave last year. He's essentially reversing pay to survive. Now imagine that trend multiplied across industries. Companies under pressure from investors and boards will look for ways to protect profits. If they can't raise prices anymore because consumers won't pay and they can't cut enough costs elsewhere, they'll turn to labor. That means job cuts, reduced hours, smaller benefits packages, or straight pay reductions. And workers will face stark choices: accept a pay cut or lose the job entirely. This is the quiet crisis that economists are whispering about, a forced reset of wages across parts of the American economy. Think about what that means in practical terms. Employers might start offering health insurance only, dropping vision and dental. Company cars and expense cards may disappear. Perks that used to make jobs attractive could vanish overnight. And then comes the bigger ask, a 2 or 3% pay cut to keep your position. For many families, that's devastating. A 3% pay cut on paper might not sound like much, but when your rent has already doubled in the past 5 years, your grocery bill has gone up 20%, and your insurance premiums keep climbing. Losing a chunk of income is a real blow. It means one less bill gets paid on time. It means cutting back on food, gas, or essentials. It means credit cards getting maxed out even faster. The cruel irony is that this entire process, wage reductions, layoffs, benefit cuts, is seen by some as the only way to bring prices back down. Economists argue that without deflation, inflationary pain continues indefinitely. But the medicine feels just as painful as the disease. Families will be asked to sacrifice income so the economy can reset. At the same time, we can't ignore automation and AI. Large corporations are rushing to adopt AI systems, not just to innovate, but to cut costs. Tasks once done by people are increasingly handled by software or machines. For businesses that can afford this transition, it's a way to lower labor costs without directly cutting wages. But for companies that can't afford to automate, the only lever they have left is reducing staff or pay. Either way, workers feel the impact. And this is where the real danger lies. It's not just inflation anymore. It's the next stage, the deflationary squeeze. Layoffs at big retailers, wage cuts at small businesses, shrinking benefits, and a looming sense that for workers, the ground is shifting beneath their feet. Now, here's the big question. How will ordinary people respond? When faced with the choice between being laid off or taking a pay cut, what do? Do you cling to your job, accept the lower wages, and hope things stabilize? Or do you walk away, risking unemployment in a job market that's increasingly unstable? This isn't a hypothetical anymore. It's happening in pockets across the country already, and more companies are considering the same strategies. The silence around it makes it even more dangerous because people aren't preparing. They're not being told to expect wage reductions or benefit cuts. Instead, they're distracted by surface-level debates while the real financial ground is shifting beneath them. If you step back, the bigger picture is unsettling. America has built an economy where the average person is squeezed from every direction, by high housing costs, by groceries that no longer feel affordable, by utilities and car loans that eat into paychecks, and now by the prospect of shrinking wages. The very idea of the American dream, work hard, earn more, build a better life, is being flipped on its head. People are being told, work harder and expect less. That's why this crisis matters. It's not just about inflation numbers or interest rates. It's about households. It's about the parent working 2 jobs who suddenly learns that both of them are cutting pay. It's about the retiree whose benefits shrink while prescription costs climb. It's about the young worker entering a job market where AI threatens to make their career obsolete before it even begins. And this is why the conversation has to happen now. If we don't talk about it, if we don't recognize what's coming, Americans will wake up one morning to find themselves forced into choices they never imagined. Choices between food and rent, between job security and dignity, between survival today and survival tomorrow. So, what does this mean for you? It means prepare now. Don't assume your paycheck will always stay the same. Don't assume your company will always offer the same benefits. Look at your expenses, your debts, your savings, and ask yourself how you'd cope with a pay cut or reduced hours. Because if the economists are right, that decision could be waiting for millions of Americans in the not-so-distant future. This is the reality no one wants to face. The next stage of America's financial crisis won't be another wave of inflation. It will be the painful process of wages coming down, benefits disappearing, and jobs being replaced or cut entirely. And when that happens, families will have to decide what survival looks like for them. Now, if you're hearing all this and thinking, that could never happen here, just remember, people said the same thing about 2008 before the financial crisis wiped out millions of jobs and homes. They said the same thing in early 2020 before a global pandemic upended everything. Economic shocks don't send a calendar invite. They show up fast, and those who ignored the warning signs are the ones who pay the heaviest price. That's why this matters. That's why we have to talk about it. Because whether you're in Georgia, California, New York, or anywhere in between, this is the crisis that's already unfolding. And if you don't see it yet, you will. So, here's the question I'll leave you with. When faced with the choice between a layoff or a pay cut, which door would you walk through? Would you sacrifice income to keep your job? Or would you risk unemployment hoping something better comes along? Whichever answer you give, One thing is clear: this isn't some distant problem. This is the biggest crisis Americans face right now, and the sooner we confront it, the better chance we have to survive it. And if you found this breakdown helpful, make sure you stay connected here. We'll keep bringing you the facts, the context, and the hard truths that others won't talk about. Because this isn't just economics, it's about survival. And in the months ahead, survival will depend on knowledge, preparation, and awareness. Stay sharp, stay prepared, and stay informed.